Hey everyone, I think we are live. My name is Lachlan from Beer Cartel. Welcome to our Wildflower live tasting from the barrel room. Pumped to be here. Can't wait to show you all the beers. With me I have Topher, the man himself. I hope you all at home are enjoying it throughout the night. It'll probably be about 45 minutes or so, give or take. Post any comments you have in the feed. I will endeavour to get them posted up and we can answer them as we go. For anyone that's tuning in, we'll keep you updated. But yeah, I'll pass over to Topher.
Thanks, and thanks for everyone for joining in and watching online. I guess it's pretty good. We have a lot of people, because we sell our beer online through our website and obviously through online retailers. We have a pretty wide reach, and it's been really good for us. Like, we've always enjoyed the fact that it's not just something that you have to come here to try or be able to try our beer here. We always enjoy sending beer to regional areas, and more surprised about how far sometimes the word has spread.
It has spread really quickly.
Yeah, like out to like really regional areas of WA. And wow, anyway. So yeah, welcome, I guess, to our little spot virtually. Behind me, we're sort of sitting in what is the tasting room. So if you've been here before, we're sort of sitting at where the serving table is. But if you haven't, this is kind of, we have a small space where we do tastings and stuff like that on the weekends. But behind us is the cellar, so you can see the sort of canopies sort of here. They're all pulled up because it's nice weather in Sydney at the moment. It's rainy, but it's cool, which is important for the barrels. But during the summertime, those will come down, and all that area behind me is sort of 3 barrels deep, either 3 or 4 barrels high, and about that way, I don't know, 6 or 7 rows. So there's a fair few back there, and that's where we do the aging of the majority of the beer that we make. And we'll just say as well, we're in Marrickville, so which is directly in the flight path. So both of us pause for some reason because it's super loud. We can't hear those things. That's it.
So before Wildflower, what did you kind of get up to? What's brewing for? Or
I was born in 19. I'm kidding. Before Wildflower, I'd worked as a brewer previously as well. I sort of have always been a brewer, I guess, in that sense, professionally. I came to Australia in 2009 and sort of did a few jobs about here and there, and ended up studying astronomy or astrophysics at Sydney Uni. And when I was finishing out that degree, I was doing a little bit of brewing, but also 2 friends of mine, Andrew and Chris, who you may know if you've known Batch Brewing Company, were starting up a little brewery that was known as Batch, and they needed some help. So I just kind of helped them along, and yeah, so I was with them since they started, and then took a little bit of a sojourn and traveled through Europe for a while with my wife, but came back and started Wildflower. So I guess brewing, studying, a little bit of research, and then brewing, and then here.
Yeah, awesome. So if you're just tuning in right now, my name is Lachlan from Beer Cartel. I am at the barrel room, cellar door brewery. Do you call it a brewery?
I call it a brewery.
Brewery, yep. Yeah. In Marrickville in Sydney with Topher, the man himself, from Wildflower. Today we're going to be having a look at, I guess, a couple of beers of theirs. They're 2 kind of core range beers, but we'll talk about those a bit later. From myself, there are some of you at home with the 2 beers. We've been doing twin packs of those for the last couple of weeks, so that the whole thing about this is that you can sit in and join in on this tasting. I'll talk about a bit more of that throughout the kind of event night, and we're going to hopefully make this a bit more of a thing, so we can take these really awesome breweries that Australia's kind of popping up into your homes, and especially with places that might not see them that often, and be able to actually get over to Marrickville in Sydney. We're pretty lucky where we are. So another thing I thought would be cool throughout the night, if anyone is actually watching in those far reach places, on top of comments, we are in the flight path. If you have any comments throughout the night, post them up. I'll get them answered. But also post whereabouts you're watching this from, the furthest away. I'm kind of interested to see how far afield this might get. But from there, we might move on to the first of the 2 beers we're going to look at tonight. so far?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess in the trend pack, we sent out our 2 main beers. So we focus on Wildflower on making basically 3 beers. We make a table beer, which is 2.9% that we sell at the brewery only. Oh, right. Yeah. We sell at the brewery only. And then we make 2 barrel-aged blends. We sort of work on continuing to make better every single month. And one of those blends we call Gold, and the other one we call Amber. And they're named for their color, which I think is just the easiest way of denoting it. Because sometimes, I guess we'll spend the next 30 minutes or so talking about how we make the beer, and it can get a little bit complicated and can get confusing. And so we try to keep things simple with just 2 beers, simple names. So the first one that I always look at whenever I'm tasting the beer is Gold, which is what we're looking at here. This is blend 11. It's the same that y'all should have all had. I believe we blended this in December. Yeah, 6th of December. So we generally blend our beers, package them, and then they sit in bottle for re-fermentation and aging and integration for 3 months. So we released this in March, so it was a little bit longer even still. But anyway, Gold, like I said, 5% Australian wild ale. We call our beers Australian wild ales to kind of shy away from using other terms, but also because our process is not like any other brewing process that I know of. It was a way for us to sort of delineate what we do rather than use someone else's terminology to define what we do. So Gold Australian wild ale, 5%. Again, this one. This beer, the focus of this beer and the focus of these blends is always a really beautiful, bright, delicate blend. So Gold is never meant to be very sour. It's not meant to be very gritty. It's not meant to be very fresh. It's not meant to be very any one thing. It's meant to be very layered. I guess so. That's the only thing. It's meant to be very. It's sort of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's about balance and precision, and about building a flavor profile rather than having one thing assault your palate for the entirety of the bottle or however much of it you're drinking. So the beer opens up generally, and this is with all blends, the beer generally opens up with it's very beautiful. Oh, we're going to get another plane here.
It's a good time to drink.
The nose is always pretty dominant of citrus, so like Meyer lemon is generally what we use to describe it. Like this citrus core, and then depending on the blend, some things can go.
Thanks, Matt.
Some things can go either more tropical or more spicy. This blend, I think sometimes that I've seen it, sometimes looks a bit more spicy. Tonight it looks pretty tropical, so it's pretty good. But spiciness, sometimes those come from some of the earlier, younger barrels that we blend in, and trying to bring out a little bit of the fresh element of the blend. I'll just go through the palate. The palate is, again, quite citric, like that first time that you taste it. Depending on the temperature that we're drinking at, ours was probably here at about 10 degrees. But it's a cold night, so it probably looks a little bit colder. But we, depending on the temperature that you drink it, it can sort of react a little bit differently. Right now, for me, really juicy, really textural. It has a nice palate weight, which kind of leads directly into the back end for us. Blending for us on our beers is all about the entirety of the palate. It's building length in a beer rather than a singularity. So the finish is always for Gold, the really sherbety, creamy finish that comes from some of the older oak elements of any one of the blends. And this blend is no exception to that. It's got a really nice old oak component that really draws out the palate and kind of stays with you in your mouth without being overly bitter or overly acidic. So again, this blend is all about trying to get length, to build for length. So
you mentioned that this is blend 11.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, what's the difference in the blends for the people at home? And also, how has it changed from the very first blend?
Sure. So we package and sell our beer in blends itself rather than batches, because all of our beer that we sell to trade, well, the gold and the amber, let's say, are barrel aged and then blended. We make our beer a little bit differently than most people.
Yep.
And by that, not to get too deep into this, but by that I mean that we bring in wort, unfermented beer from nearby breweries, fermented here at our place, and then put that entire batch of wort into about 5 to 10 barrels of oak barrels. Those oak barrels go into the cellar, into this area behind me, and they begin aging there so we ferment with the mixed culture of yeast using all of the forage wild yeast, and sort of that a little bit more if someone wants. But we ferment everything with the whole mixed culture, we call that. So Brett, lacto, PDO, Saccharomyces, everything all together. And then the beer goes to barrel. And in the barrel, they go through these more complex fermentations that bring out really the character of our beer. But when we go to package, we don't just take that one batch and put it back together and put it in bottle. Instead, we look at the entirety of the cellar and choose different ages of the same base beer. So the same, say we're talking about gold, we'll choose gold from 4 months old, 5 months old, 6 months old, 7 months old, 8 months old, 9 months old, 10 months old, 11, 12, 13, with gold of all ages in here. We'll look at everything and we'll try to build complexity in the blend. By choosing barrels of different ages and blending them together. So the difference in the blends is the fact that there's actually different barrels of beer in every single blend. The barrels that we add do change from blend to blend. However, because it's always me and Luke, my sort of barrel manager, blending, we're getting convergence. So if you've had gold in the past, it's going to look very similar to what you've had in the past, the next one. So, yeah.
So is the idea that, from my wine background, a bit like a non-vintage champagne, where you're trying to make a whole lot of different things as close as you can each time, or are you trying to get different variances along each blend? So I know that obviously you can't brew them.
Non-vintage champagne has a negative connotation for me. So
do I get that as well?
No, I don't know. We're checking what's best from our cellar.
Yeah, awesome.
Month. Yeah,
try to make the best product you can.
Yeah,
that time.
I mean, and really, we're trying to deliver a product that's consistent, so that a customer's not taking a punt on what we've made while dealing with a very inconsistent process. Cool. It's for us a way to say to people, you've enjoyed this in the past, you will enjoy it in the future. In fact, it's only going to get better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We did have a question come through saying, which breweries are you currently sourcing your wort from? Is that
two breweries in Sydney? No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's cool.
Fine. One of them being Batch, so the guys that I used to work for. I'll go brew over there, or they'll brew for us, depending on who has time. And we've also started bringing in wort recently from Yuli's in Alexandria.
Oh, cool.
So they've just the new brewery online. So
is there any kind of, when you do you go brew the wort, or do you give them kind of a, this is what we're after, or like they just, is there any like,
the wort that's made exactly to our specifications.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So it's our recipes.
Yep.
Yeah. Building a beer for mixed culture barrel age. Building a beer for barrel aging is quite important. Yeah. So I just see Richard do a single blend with the Alpha. We do have a couple. That's not a blend. Just wanted to touch on this. We do have a few beers we have in the past released, Alpha and Beta, namely, that are single barrel releases. So they're not a blend. Yeah. Similarly, we will have a beer that we'll release sometime later this year that is a pull from a Solera. So it's rather than, it's not a blend, it's a sort of an in-barrel blend, but we don't specifically blend it. So we'll package that by pull, like pull number 1 or pull number 2 by the time that we pull PULL, pulled from the Solera. So if it's a blend, it'll say blend. If it's a single barrel, it'll still say single barrel. Yeah.
Just on that, if you're just tuning in at the moment, my name is Lachlan. I am at the Wildflower Barrel Room or cellar door in Marrickville with Topher, the man myself. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment box. Always love to hear from you. Once again, how far away you are. We always want to know how far this is reaching. If you're in the middle of Australia in Catherine, or if you're over in Perth, we'd love to hear where you're from as well. But at the moment, we're trying the Gold blend, which is one of their two main releases. This is number 11, I think we said. Which at home, if you have bought any of the twin packs, this is the Gold that you should be trying. As I said before, this is hopefully going to be a bit of a thing in the future. Whether it's Wildflower, we might hopefully do some more here as well, or other breweries. We will be trying to open it up as well, so you can actually be here as well, tasting them with us. And then for you at home, the reason that I wanted to do this, and like as a company at Beer Cartel, we love taking these really hard to find small breweries that, being in Sydney, we're really lucky to have access to, but to take them to those places that you can't get here. So really hope you're enjoying it. Hope you learned something about it tonight. And like I said, if you've got any comments, please put them in the comment field and we'll try to get them answered. Hayley, so we've got another one here from Hayley Bell saying, do you plan to make the wort yourself or setting up a brewery?
It's a good question. I get asked it a lot. The answer is no. We're very busy as we are fermenting, blending, packaging, dealing with fruit, and it's I'm not focused on trying to put out a bunch of beer in order to pay off the equipment financing loans for building a brewery. So we set ourselves up here in Marrickville very specifically because we're in the center of breweries here in the inner west. So we have enough friends in the area that if the time came and the need arose, that I could just go around to a number of breweries on nights or weekends. And I do that. I mean, I'm up brewing at 3:30, 4 in the morning so that I'm done before guys come in. That's just part of what I do, but I enjoy the flexibility. And, if there was a brew house sitting over there in my blendery brewery, I'd probably get anxious about it and start brewing a bit more. And that takes us away from our core focus, which is fermentation. So probably not. I mean, I'm not dogmatic. I'll never say never. But not in this space. I don't think I would set up a brewery. And I'll just quickly look at Matt asked if we've already brewed our next in Florence. Is it going to be called in Florence? So, are you
going to bottle it this time, or bottle it for a bigger release, or?
Yeah, well, it'll be a wider release. We're doing pretty similar volume, but we're going to be packaging we have 4 fruit beers we're releasing this year. 1 for each of me and my business partner Chris's children. So he's got 3, I have 1. So 4 as of this year. But we're all from big Catholic families, so there should be more fruit in the future. But anyway, so brewed is a bit silly because we would have, the beer that we use for Florence is aged anyway. So yeah, we probably brewed ages ago, but it is re-fermenting on fruit right now, and it'll be called the same name every year, and it'll have a vintage number on it, so that it'll have an age, basically. Richard, have we outgrown our space already? No, I hope not to. We just need to use our space more efficiently. I mean, we have a lot of barrels in here, but we're going to pyramid stack them so that you can see they're on racks right now. So we'll actually stack them on top of each other, which is a bit more space efficient. And once we have that volume of barrels, we'll probably halt for a while because it just becomes a lot of work. The way that we use our barrels is pretty manual. So we spend a lot of time doing that. So
spend the first 15 minutes here watching Topher move barrels around, and I get the sense that that's a tip of the iceberg.
It was 3 hours moving barrels around last night. So yeah, it's not fun. Anyway,
we touched on it earlier. You have a little bit of a unique brewing barrel aging process. You mentioned that you get the wort from other breweries. Mm-hmm. I've heard countless stories of how you found your yeast, how you have, I've heard stories of you going to the back forest foraging for botanicals. Whether these are true industry stories,
so the yeast, so the unique brewing process is basically a downstream effect or a consequence of the yeast that we've chosen to use to ferment all of our beers. we use, as I said, a mixed culture of yeast, and not just any mixed culture of yeast. We use a mixed culture of yeast with wild yeast that we foraged from here in New South Wales, or wrangled or harvested. I mean, there's lots of different types of words for something similar. And because of the nature of this culture that we use, we're sort of forced to barrel age the beers, and that's really where they express themselves the best. So the brewing process is more of a how do I say it? Like a consequence of our decision to use this yeast. The yeast itself came from there's the DuPont strain. I'm not shying away from the fact that there's a commercial strain of Saccharomyces in our house culture. When we make wort every year, which we made last year and we will again this year, that beer doesn't have any commercial yeast in it whatsoever. So that's a truly entirely New South Wales beer. However, for Golden Amber, largely, unless I talk about it largely, most of the other beers, our house culture has, Belgian strain of Saccharomyces, and then everything else was stuff that we foraged. And by that, I means that anywhere in the wild there's sugar, you can also find yeast. So yeast, being a native organism, like all of us, wants to survive, and it survives and thrives and lives on sugar sources, because that's what it uses to continue and propagate itself. So in the wild, some great sugar sources are flowers as well as fruits, and so we, hence the name, got a lot of our yeast from native flowers, and that is a really simple process. So I have a blog post on my blog if you want to read about it.
We'll try and post it on the comment section after.
So about how you might do that or why you might do that, but it's quite simple. I mean, you go out when the flowers are in bloom, and you take pickings of the colorful parts, which the bees are attracted to because there's sugar there, and you drop that into unfermented beer. You drop that into wort, and it starts fermenting. I mean, it's mad.
That's cool.
It's not as sort of maybe not scientific, but it's far more alchemy than science, I think, when the time it comes down to it. We never got those cultures plated or separated or anything like that. The ones that I had dozens and dozens. I mean, I can't even count how many different captures we had, but maybe about 1 in 6 was any good. But everything was sensory based. So if it tasted good, we would take it. So and this. Sorry, Hayley just has a great question. With aromas and activity, what we were looking for, basically fruitiness was generally something I would look for.
That's a big question.
You shouldn't be scared. Don't be scared to use your yeast. If you can just dump it if it doesn't work. It's only unfermented beer. It's not a big deal. But basically, the aromas we're looking for are beer-like aromatics. Young Brettanomyces fermentations do smell a bit strange. So if you're getting stuff that just smells bacteria-y, or like ethyl acetate, like nail polish remover, or like acetic acid, like vinegar, I dump that stuff. Just don't continue with it. But don't be pulling that cap open all the time and smelling it into it either. I always did captures on 2 liters and up of wort. So when you're doing really small fermentations of 50 or 60 mil, it's really easy to get over too much oxygen contact. So beautiful, nice fruity flavors.
Once again, for anyone tuning in, please put your comments in. I'm here at Wildflower Brewing and Blending in Marrickville, Sydney, doing a live tasting with Topher himself. Any questions, put them in the comment feed, and we'll endeavour to get them answered for you.
So I just read the honey, apple, and grape aromas. It's probably good. Yeah, we probably got something good.
Yeah. So the second beer the final beer that we're going to try tonight, I have lost my agenda. That's okay. Is the amber. So I actually have a little bit left in this one. If you wanted to pour a little bit, show the color difference.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. I can show you. This is the amber blend. So that's a bit of the color differences.
Yeah, and so like I said, very simple about the way that I try to at least market things. And this beer is amber in color, so we call it amber. Just waiting for a prompt here to see what I need to talk about. I'll pour you a beer in the meantime. This is a good time to get your beer.
All right. So we're on to like I said, the amber blends. This is the second of the two core beers, I guess, that you do. This is
including table beer.
Yeah.
Table beers are core, I guess. That's why.
This one is blend 10. Mm-hmm. So this is blend number 10. So for those of you joining us at home with the twin pack of the two beers, you'll notice that this one is blend 10, not blend 11. And I'll pass over to Topher for
there's a difference with the numbers that we released the blends. It's really annoying. Because there's a blend we blended them at the same time. Blend 2 and blend 3. However, the blend 2 of gold we didn't release, and so we ended up releasing blend 3 of gold with blend 2 of amber. It's really complicated, but blend 2 of gold just was one of these wild re-fermentations in bottle that didn't go very well, and our first beer was received really well onto the market, and there was no way that I was gonna try to pass off something that I wasn't proud of to sell. So we dumped that beer and started again, and anyway, that's why they're a bit different. So this is the current release of amber.
Yep.
So amber blend 10, probably one of my. I always say the current blends are my favorite blends, and it's generally true. This blend of amber, 100%, is it's so balanced. I've talked about finding subtlety and balance in the gold. It's a little bit more difficult in the amber because we're looking at bigger flavors. We're looking at stronger malt flavor, more acidity, and a riper sort of aromatic. So this beer is really an attempt to show the fact that, we're a sour brewery, I guess, like people call our beer sour beer. I really do shy away from that in terms of just calling it Australian Wild Ale, because we want to use acidity as an element of our profile, but don't want that to be the dominating factor, as it were. The amber is more sour, 100%. However, what we're trying to do in this blend is bring that into context with the rest of the elements of this blend. So being richer in color and malt flavor, it's a little bit sweeter. It's still probably much drier than your normal pale ale, but it is slightly sweeter. And to balance that, we bring the acidity up. It's huge chocolate cherry sort of nose that carries right through on the palate. This building acidity that starts at the front and gets you smiling by the end of the sip, and just finishes nice and clean with a little bit of length, toastiness from the oak coming out just at the end, and then stops, and then wait for the next glass. So that's amber, yeah.
So in the whole botanical side of it, is it just the yeast? Are you adding any kind of other botanicals into the barrels? Is it just the same house strain of yeast that's the difference between this, or is it the malt?
The malt is different. There's a different malt base, obviously, to get the different color. Yeah. We use all New South Wales cereals, so malt here from malt and unmalted grains, so all cereals from here in New South Wales. And the amber is really a hallmark of Voyager malt and what they're doing. So Voyager uses this is heavy on Voyager Munich malt, as well as freshly roasted chocolate malt that Stu will roast the week of that I'm brewing. So it actually got delivered fresh. We're brewing amber tomorrow at Yuli's, and it was delivered fresh to Archie Rose from roasting on Monday in the Riverina. So Stu will roast it nice and fresh, and so I just get exactly what I need for that specific one. And so the malt characteristic comes across as a much richer, fresher flavor, just like coffee. I mean, malt is just like coffee. He literally roasted on a small coffee roaster, throwback coffee roaster. And so you get chocolate and cherries rather than acrid bitterness, which I think you can get in a lot of darker beers that use chocolate malt. So yeah, there's a different malt base, but no, 100%. We don't use any spices or anything like that to get me. I mean, besides the 4 fruit beers we make, even the fruit beer, we're not going to be. I'm not focused on adding things to the beer. I think that the yeast is incredibly complex on its own.
And are these different yeasts? Are they the same?
Exactly.
So the only difference is the malt profile and how the yeast interacts with.
Yep. That's it.
Cool. So a couple of questions that come through. I like this one from Matt again. Why the basketball? Is that just a...
Oh, it's just because I'm pretentious. No. No, we pour our beer in baskets. It's traditional Belgian style of pouring your beer. But we once the beer is packaged, it's stored on its side, and so the yeast settles down onto the side of the bottle. Once it's labeled at the brewery, it's and put into box. It's put into boxes on their side. Our bottles aren't boxed up, right? And then when it gets to the retailer, it's probably generally going to be turned up, right, which is fine. But here we continue to store them on their side. It's a bit more space efficient, but also there's a more surface area for the yeast to interact. You get a creamier mouthfeel when you serve on your side rather than on the top. So because the beer is always on its side, you have a nice yeast sediment. Our beers are naturally conditioned, so they go through fermentation in bottle. So you get a nice yeast sediment on the bottom of the bottle. So by upturning it and pouring it out, often you are upsetting that yeast sediment every single time. Specifically for serving glasses of it, like we would here, you don't want to be you don't want the last person's glass to just be totally turbid with yeast. So we do that because it's physically less turning. I mean, when it's on its side, you just go like that. You can't off rather than. So that's why we store them on the side. Matt, should you be storing them on the side? Look, I do. I don't know. If our beer was under cork, I'd say 100% yes. You have to see some breweries saying not to do that even if they have cork. Look, to me, you can just fit more into your cellar if you sort of on your side. So I don't know why not. Anyway.
If you have any other questions for anyone that's just tuning in, please post them in the comment feed. I'll endeavour to get them answered. You have mentioned a couple of times when I said these are the two core beers, you've got a table beer as well. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be, I know you package that here and sell that from the brewery. Are you looking at releasing that in a wider volume? If you wanted to, what is that, your just house beer? Or?
Yeah, it's like our house beer. It's not something that we're not attempting to send out. I mean, we call it table beer as if you would talk about a table loaf of bread or a table wine. We don't label it. We just write on table on it with a hand, like with a marker. Really intentionally just to say this is a very simple beer made in a really simple way, really.
Right.
That builds complexity because of its process, but we're not trying to make something that's going to every time blow your mind. Like that for us is what we want to drink here. We're drinking it today while bottling, and it's 2.9%, 3%, so you can. You don't really feel it.
It's delicious.
So so I'm not looking at sending that out. I think part of the reason for that is because I'm super self-conscious of what people would they wouldn't, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people wouldn't understand it. They'd look at a tap list or something like, oh, why would I drink a 2.9% beer? Like, that's stupid. Like, I'm not going to have light beer. I'm like, no, there's so much more to this.
Yeah.
So I'm probably just saving myself from people's reactions. But, yeah.
Alrighty, so if you have any questions, keep putting them through. That's the two beers that we're looking at. There's obviously a load more small batch sort of stuff that you're looking at doing, and I guess that kind of comes to me and like, what's next for Wildflower?
What's next? Well, really, when I get asked this question, I generally say the same thing, which is more blends and better blends.
Is it still going to be amber and gold, or is there going to be any other kind of different ones coming along? Or
we have we've packaged a couple other things, but it takes like 4 months in bottle for that to happen. So keep updated. Like, we'll have things out there, but we're working on a bunch of things. Obviously, we have the 4 fruit beers, and the first of them will come out in May. So.
Is that going to be a wide release, or is that going to be a small release? Or?
It'll be online and through here. We've got more of it than in Florence, but we get some more bottles specifically. But we packaged up fruit beer in 375 ml bottles this year, so I guess wider. Again, like we could only get our hands on so much fruit, and I wasn't going to try to blend that flavor out. So, they're about the size of a normal gold or amber blend. about that size. So yeah, I mean, you won't have to come here and line up to get the beer. It'll be online, and there'll be plenty of them. So yeah.
There's an email come through from Leon, message, comment, about when you were first doing it. I understand, working with barrels wouldn't exactly be the easiest.
There wasn't wastage. That is maybe the wrong word to use. We didn't blend as many barrels as we have now. So the first 4 blends, I think, were 2-barrel blends. So you're looking at barrels usually between 225, 228, or 300 liters. So you're looking at 600 liters max. And so they were just smaller barrel blends, less barrels. Part of that was because we didn't, we were putting in 20 barrels every month into the cellar, but you can't take out 20 barrels when it's not aged, right? So you need to build your cellar, as it were. So that's why there's about 85% of the beer we've ever brewed is sitting behind me right now, not out in the market. Way more volume there than anything we've ever put out, because it's all aging, so that in the future we have stock to blend with. We're not stealing from ourselves. So that's why the numbers were smaller in the first blends. Now we're blending 4-barrel blends, so it's not significantly bigger, but it definitely makes a bigger impact when you're selling that across the country. So we want the blends to be getting out there. The gold blend I just packaged today was a 5-barrel blend. That's for June release. That's still, again, I mean, we're talking about 1,200 liters of each beer a month. That's a 10-barrel brewery, so something like the size of batch. 1 turn on their brewery a month. The numbers still aren't big, but that's why we put them into the bottles, and I do want to see them out and about. I want to see them, I want you to get to Beer Cartel and it's like, I've had the Gold Ale before. I liked it. I'll get it again. We're not trying to build a brand based on rarity at all. It's completely opposite to that, because beer itself is such a simple, accessible product, and I want that to be the case for our beer. So I'd love for you to be able to walk into so many different stores. You're on holidays somewhere in Australia, and you're like, you know what? I just really want a Wildflower beer. And go in and go find it. So that's kind of what we're building to. Not that that's, again, I mean, because of the nature of the product, it's not going to be a huge volume that we're looking at. But that's probably why, more and more, and we're really happy to more and more, you might see the beer out and about a little bit more. But that being said, I mean, it's not being poured on draft at every little pub. We've sold I think like 10, 20 liter kegs. That's it. Throughout the course of our brewery. So in bottles, yes, 100%. And we'll continue to focus on that. Keg product, you'll start seeing some trickle out for events and stuff like that, but it's not a focus.
There was a comment earlier from Matt again about your collective. If you are after some of the rare stuff, I'll put it up, but I heard great things about it. It sold out in record time, and you've probably got huge demand for it. Are you looking at making it a bit bigger, or?
To be honest, I haven't really thought about it. We've been so busy in the preseason. I'll by the end of the year, I'll have an answer for that. By around December, it's a small membership-based group that we made so that we could start working on some different experimental stuff, and we kind of gave us purpose to do that. 10 liters here and there doesn't really go very far, but 50 liters, 100 liters of stuff, we can actually work with that. So we'll package up those experiments and send them out to those members.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'm too tired right now to think about that.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. From me here at Lachlan at Beer Cartel, I would like to thank Topher huge amount for spending time with us today. I know he's had a huge day, lots coming up in the future. Thank you for anyone that's tuned in and watched, people that have been posting comments. Thank you so much. Any last words?
I mean, if you've done already, just follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we've got some newsletter. Anyone who's bought beer online for us, it would be on that. So I try to pen something, scratch something up every month and kind of let people know what's happening. We'll post us an email or something like that.
We can post the links in the comments field below. We'll also put the products up in the chat below. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Lachlan from Beer Cartel. I'll be doing this a bit more regularly. I know I've got a couple other people lined up for next week. I'll shoot through the details a bit later. But thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night.